Decorating Pages is a podcast dedicated to taking you behind the scenes of the designs of your favorite TV shows and films. Each episode, I'll be sharing design stories from some of Hollywood's most famous sets. Interviews from set decorators, production designers, directors, and actors about creating the look of TV and film, about their design inspirations, and stories that take sets from page to screen. Hello, and welcome to Decorating Pages. I'm your host, Kim Wanup. 3. You get 3 this week. I mean, you must be exhausted, because I kind of am. I don't know. It's kind of a lot. I mean, I'm the only one doing this, right? But I love it, and I'm super excited because this episode came up quite quickly and unexpected, and I'm glad that I'm able to make this work. So today we're talking to production designer Judy Rhee and set decorator Cathy Marshall about Poker Face. I was going to say Peacock's Poker Face, but yeah, I've never met either one of them. Cathy, I have seen here and there on like SDSA Zooms or parties, maybe, but I'd also love to grab her again to talk about her career because she's got some awesome credits, and I'm definitely inspired by her, by both women. So we'll hear them in a little bit. I don't know what Wanup's watching because I don't have time to watch anything doing all these podcasts. So I don't even know what I watched last night because, you know what I've been watching is The Verdict from 1982 with Paul Newman. And God, it's lit almost so dark in some spots. It's so great. And his acting is so good, and just the story, and I think I had seen it or bits and pieces of it, like my grandfather watching it when I was younger, and might have caught some pieces, but I never watched it all the way through. So I had been watching that, just like I had said last week, watching North by Northwest. I put this on, and James Mason is in both of those films, and he's obviously aged a ton in The Verdict, but really just a great movie, and sad, a little sad. So there. I was just reading that Warner Brothers might disable TCM, which is where I watch all these movies, and that is so disheartening. I already miss, because I don't really have cable anymore. I miss like Osborne talking about the movies and getting those introductions, because on streaming you just put it on. So I already miss that, and I was reading that Scorsese and Paul Thomas Anderson and Spielberg had like an emergency meeting with the head of Warner Brothers to try to save TCM. Are they going to buy it and take it over? I mean, I hope, if I can help in any way, because I love it. I also feel like they let some movies in that they shouldn't now, because it's with HBO, and some of the older movies that are on HBO, they just put on the TCM app, which I think is weird. They're not really classics. But I'm also, we don't want all black and whites. Films of the 70s and 80s are classics now. I mean, how scary is that? So, I hope they don't get rid of that, because I really enjoy TCM. And I'm sure you do too. If you ever pop it on and just want to watch an old movie, I watch that. I check that out. That's probably my go-to. My go-to is probably HBO and TCM at this point, because when I'm done watching whatever series I'm watching, I usually turn on an old movie, and it has always had such great selection. So I hope that doesn't go. What else? I don't know. I don't know what else I got for you, besides I've had another beautiful day in Los Angeles. My goodness, the sun is shining over here. So I think it was all rainy when I talked to my parents this morning back east. So sorry, New York. Sorry, everybody. I did just read too that Texas has like a $200 million film incentive. So I guess a lot of my friends are going to be going to Texas for movies pretty soon. So yeehaw to that. that's a good thing. Happy to hear that. And I think I might take next week off, people. I think I deserve a little bit of break. And it'll give you time to catch up if it was too much for you. If having all these awesome podcasts was too much for you, you're going to have some time to catch up. Voting for Emmys ends Monday, the 26th. So on today's episode, I speak with production designer Judy Rhee and set decorator Cathy Marshall about the first season Peacock series Poker Face. With the series storyline being of a girl on the run, the art department and set deck teams were sprinting to create incredibly detailed sets that lead this character from Reno to a southern barbecue, truck stops, dinner theaters, and ending up in Atlantic City. We talk about the struggles of working with no permanent sets to fall back on, having scripts and outlines ahead of time to keep the team a tad bit ahead, and making upstate New York look like middle America. The team also included set decorator Elizabeth Eggert. Her and Cathy were doing every other episode, but they shot out of order, so good luck to you there. I don't know how you did it. There are tons and tons of sets. I forgot to ask how many sets they had, but yeah, it's a lot. It's a good series. I say this, I'm not really a fan of Natasha Lyonne and her whole spiel and that hair, but it's good. It's almost like she's not in every single scene. There's a lot of storyline without her. If you're not her fan, if you are a fan, she's good in it. I learned to appreciate her in this also, and thought that she was really good in this. I loved Slums of Beverly Hills. That would probably be my favorite project of hers, but that was a long time ago. So yeah. I hope you enjoy. Seen you on like SDSA meeting Zooms or something.
Right.
Hi Judy. Hi, so nice to
meet
you.
you. Are you Kim?
I'm Kim. That's it.
Nice to meet you. Hi Cathy. Hi Judy.
Cathy, I was looking because I'm like, I know that I had reached out to you, and it was like February 2020, and then the pandemic, and then we like emailed. And then, shit happens and work happens, and then I never followed up. So I'm glad to get you for this, because I love your work on Hunters, too. I mean, Hunters was fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, so...
That was a fun job. Like this one, we got to do some great creative sets, really, interesting, different character stuff. So,
how did you guys get involved with this, and how long was your prep?
Well, I'll go ahead and start. Yeah. I was contacted by my agent, who told me about the project. I read the scripts, and of course, I've heard great things about Rian Johnson, so I was thrilled to be considered. And then, read the scripts. Was a little bit concerned about how the schedule would lay out. And I went on the naive assumption that we were going to travel to some of these locations, which of course I discovered very quickly when I started that was not the case, that we would have to find everything in the Hudson Valley. In terms of prep, I don't feel like we had enough prep for the amount of work. And certainly the decorators did not start early enough.
Yeah.
And it took a while for me to convince the higher ups that we were only going to be able to achieve this by having alternating decorators. There wasn't enough prep. I mean, it was tight as it was. Right. So yeah, in an ideal world, both decorators would have started earlier, and I would have started earlier.
Yeah. I mean, I was on For All Mankind, and we had to bring on a second decorator, and there's always like 2 art directors or 5 art directors, and so I think it is hopefully becoming a little bit more balanced with like how much work there is in decorating and location work versus set work, and we just have to do it. Like it sort of has to become like the norm on these bigger shows, I feel. Otherwise it's too much. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Well, especially on this show, because each episode was its own kind of mini movie, its own story. And there were no amort sets. There were no sets that were standing from episode to episode. So it was basically starting from scratch each episode.
Yeah.
And I had never worked that way either, as Judy explained. We couldn't have done it any other way, really.
Yeah. When you have if you're not going to be on stage for 4 days, then you can't catch up, you can't catch your breath. And this is such a show of like, she's on the road, she's in a different city every episode. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that, I mean, I knew about the show and everything like that, but I didn't know that she was going to be on the road. Obviously, I thought it was like, a little bit of like coming back to the casino, or I don't know. But obviously, she's not going back there. So did you build, I feel like the casino and maybe like a couple of the first episode, you had some builds, but then, I mean.
The casino was something we created from scratch. We couldn't find a casino that would let us shoot, obviously, while they were operating. So we ended up creating everything in an abandoned event space nearby. So that was a huge undertaking that took up most of prep for Lizzie, who did that episode, to find enough casino equipment that actually functioned. And I know that Cathy may know this a little bit better than I do. When you take working casino equipment across state lines, you have to get a gambling license. And there were all these other things that we learned about.
Yes.
Now I know. And Sterling's office we built, the Crow's Nest we built. So yeah, this event space ended up becoming kind of like our fourth stage that we use intermittently, just because the turnover and our limited stage space where our offices were quite small and they were always filled. So yeah, we created a lot from episode 1 and 9, and which are the 2 that we shot back to back in the beginning.
Oh, wow. So you had at least 9 scripts? Wow.
We had 10. Yeah, we had like 8.5, 10 scripts. One of them or a couple of them weren't fully developed, but we had an outline of where she was going to travel to.
And then 10, there's a casino. Is 10's the last one? 9.
Right.
Yes.
10. So 10 was 10 a location? Because I was like, is that Mohegan Sun? I thought it was Mohegan Sun. Is it? Yeah.
10 was a functioning casino in Connecticut, and I'm not sure how or why they allowed us to shoot there, which was thankfully a good thing.
Yeah.
Because by 10, I mean, we were still building a lot of sets, and I mean, we all had roller skates on and never stopped.
No, I know. So you block shot 2 at a time through the whole season, or just the first 2?
Just the first 2.
Just the first 2.
Ryan was directing the first 2, and it was based on actor availability. So yeah, 1 and 9, and then we built, simultaneously creating the casinos in Sterling's office and the Crow's Nest. We also built the lodge on stage.
Oh, wow. Wouldn't it be nice if it was based on like decorator availability or like prop availability, or
that would be great.
Art department. Yeah. So when the 2 of you are reading these scripts, are you like, what? Where is she going? And how did you find that as episode 2, that like barren truck stop in the Hudson Valley?
Actually, that's the only episode we shot entirely out of state. That was in New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
But
I was gonna say,
we didn't shoot 2 until the end. So it was 1, 9, and then 3. And then that's when Cathy started her episodes.
Oh, wow. So
Cathy was prepping 3 while we were still prepping and shooting 1 and 9.
Oh my gosh. Out of order seems awful, but I guess these are kind of bottled. I mean, there's a thread, but they are kind of bottled in a sense of storyline, and you don't have to. I mean, how many times have I taken over a show or you or like, and you have to like continue on sets and everything. So it is kind of nice that you're not like redressing something or, it's all new, kind of.
I would have welcomed redressing anything.
Yeah, it sounds like a beatdown, but it looks great. I mean,
and Cathy was instrumental in getting 3 up and going because we were all so stretched thin that she found, I mean, you can tell the story, Cathy, but we basically designed the set and the whole field around what Cathy found.
Oh, wow.
And her input was instrumental. Yeah.
That one required this outdoor Texas barbecue joint, like out in the middle of nowhere.
Huge barbecue. Huge smoker.
Huge smokers. Yeah. 3 huge smokers.
Yep.
And creating it in the Hudson Valley to look like Texas somewhere, where Charlie's at the end, been driving for several hours across multiple states or finds this dog, and then he jumps out right near this barbecue joint. So we were very lucky with our location people finding kind of a great, I guess it had been an old gas station with a farm across the street. The guy's father had owned it in the 40s, and it had then been repurposed as kind of a brewery club where they had music inside the building. But the brewery was inside the garage, in like the old mechanics room. And then they had like an attached bar, which we really never even used. We created our own kitchen, and then the outside area, Judy, they designed this great shed to house all of these smokers. I was lucky to find, 3 1,000-gallon propane tank smokers.
I know.
I thought we were going to have to build them at first because that was scripted,
I've had to build them, so I know.
Yes. So I did all that research in the beginning. Fortunately, I had a little time for that. But I lucked out and found a barbecue kind of grill master in the Hudson Valley who had a smoker. He had a couple of smaller ones, and then I found 2 other smokers from different vendors that I also brought in. So that kind of helped us, create the set around what we found. And the field behind this place, it was like a farm, so there was a lot of acreage. We were able to put the Airstream off in the distance so that Boyle could live and work in the same area. Across the street from that was supposed to be this radio station, little, country out.
I love that radio station. All of those posters and like everything. I was like, fantastic.
And I guess the geography of it was so huge. We had to put in a parking lot, put in a road, put in 12 telephone poles just to hold the lighting.
Oh my God.
For all of the the nighttime light bulbs to light the thing. And it was a pretty big dress.
Yeah, it was a pretty big dress. I mean,
I think we pulled it off. I thought it looked pretty good.
Oh,
the smokers worked. Everything, was authentic. Found that great cow, which I love. We had some good vendors up in the Hudson Valley who were collectors of some great objects, and so we're able to pull from a lot of different sources to make the set.
I do love, like, outside his trailer, his little world that you made, and, like, his little smoker and his wood pile, and he's sitting, his outside pieces and plants.
His garden.
Yeah. I was also thinking there was a lot of trailers and buses and cars in this show, too, which is always fun when you're like, oh yeah, we'll do like her main trailer or like his trailer. Like, you have such a small space to get this character into that I like it. I'm like, we just get everything in there and they'll see it. You know what I mean? You're not spaced out so much. They're going to see what we put in here. They're really going to see it. So I do love doing
You hope they do anyway. Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, he was on the floor a lot.
In the dark, no lights. But
yeah. I was thinking of that episode too, like, they had a lot of nights, a lot of night scenes on this one too, and the turnarounds, but it does work out sometimes for art department and set deck, because then we have all day to dress. So sometimes it works out for night shots, but
sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, so much of the show was so specific in its how it was written and all the camera blocking. So things had to be designed around those camera angles, and every episode had that version, like, you know, that as well as the theater. All those camera movements were thought through and designed around. So I don't even know that we could have found a location that would have fulfilled all those story points that Ryan was very specific about. So that was the other challenge. It wasn't like we could just find any barbecue joint, not that it existed in the Hudson Valley, but it had to be tailored and modified for all those specific story points.
Did you find it difficult to keep cohesiveness in like the colors, or like in, you know, because everything's so different every episode? Did you just go with it, or did you try to keep a palette?
There was no sort of thread of palette that we were trying to keep. Like, you know, as you mentioned, each script is its own little movie, and she comes across a different geography and different set of characters. So it was really about creating something for the characters and where we were supposed to be. So, you know, it was always collaborative. It was never a thought through plan of like, okay, so she's going to hit blues first and then it's going to get warmer. And it was not discussed in those terms. And I don't know that Ryan was looking for that. So we did approach each episode as its own specific thing. So whatever we chose for 3 was obviously very different from 6 and 10 and 8, you know. So, I mean, Cathy and I would discuss, well, what do you think about this? And sometimes it would just start with a piece of wallpaper swatch or a piece of carpet or a fabric and think, oh, that's great, that's perfect. And then we would somehow build around that. And it worked. I think it worked for each episode to have its own kind of imprinted color palette.
Oh, I mean, because like even when you're going with the like heavy metal band and the blacks and like the reds and everything, and then you're at the retirement community with like browns and oranges. I mean, obviously, any show you're on, you can have a palette, but it's dependent on what the set is too. I mean, you have to be, if it's realistic. I mean, those are what they are. But I was wondering if there was an overall, because because of the storyline, it doesn't need it. The thread is more in the story than like visually always keeping her in blue or something and then red at the end. So that's understandable.
I mean, Charlie really is the only thread, her and her Barracuda.
Yeah,
that's it. Everything else is new for each episode. So
was there a lot of interaction with costumes and trying to, because the subject matter is so different in every episode, and trying to play off of any of that, anything with like sofas or fabrics in the theater and the color of the background or anything? Or
I mean, it was, once again, we didn't have that much prep together, the costume designer and I. So, and she didn't get casting until like the day before. So it was pretty run and gun for all of us. But, you know, occasionally we did have time in the parking lot. What color are you thinking about? And we would just shout out colors, or she would run into the office and say, what do you think about this? It's like, perfect. We won't, you know, just to make sure it wasn't going to blend in with the wall colors or clash with the wallpaper. And she may have reached out to Cathy as well to ask questions, and it was very cryptic.
I would send her stuff when I had something. I would say, okay, this is where I'm going with it. And but it was all running gun. I think one of the best examples of the collaborative effort was how in the beginning we used this event space, and Lizzie and the gang, her team, they created this amazing casino and all the other structures within that space. We ended up using the same space in episode, was it 106, Judy?
Yeah,
with the
6.
movie, the theater.
For the theater.
So we had to use that same space and pretty much eliminate the casino feeling and stuff from the previous episode and make it now into a dinner theater, and create a kitchen in the basement and create the backstage area and the catwalk area and the dressing room areas in that same building. So that was a challenge, and that was an amazing, I think, feat with the art department and the production design to pick the spaces and to design the walls and stuff that would help make that what it was.
Well, now I'm blown away that wasn't like an actual location in the kitchen, and I would shoot your location manager. I would be like, dude, you gotta find us something. We can't we can't make all.
We brought every piece in. It was an empty room in the basement, for the kitchen, and we brought all that stuff in. And then the stage that was there for the original event space, which I don't think you guys used for the casino, but it was too small for our theater, our dinner theater. So Judy and the art directors, and they built out the stage, the floor and the sides and the back walls, and gave us more space for the set that was going to go on it, plus a backstage area and the wings. And then the house area, I think there was a very patterned carpet from the original event space that was used in the casino. And there wasn't enough time to order, new carpet that would have worked for the dinner theater. And it was going to cost, about $65,000 if we could have even gotten the volume that we needed for the space. So, Judy and I discussed it, and I pretty much felt like if we could tone it down and color it, dye it like a darker color, so you still had a pattern, but it wouldn't read as bright as it did in the casino. Right. And that we were shooting the theater at night anyway in the dark, and sometimes that stuff just kind of disappears. So that's what we did. We tested some options with the scenics. We had them spray a Hudson sprayer with dye in a burgundy color, and it toned down the golds, and we were able to use the same carpet and save a lot of money and expediency.
That's fantastic. Although I would think it would be wet carpet for like a week, and then you just have the big fans blowing on it, and
it somehow dried over a long weekend. So we were kind of lucky.
That was good. That's back east. That's fantastic.
I kept checking the guys' feet, to see if they were white.
Yeah,
had burgundy rubber on their soles or something, but no, it dried.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
That was definitely a set that was cutting it really close to see if it was going to get done in time. It was really down in the wire. We were still dressing, aging, and painting as the shooting crew arrived.
Yeah, we had to create that grid, the lighting grid. It was very elaborate.
Lighting is really important also in the whole story, and finding the clues, and even the theater and the neons of the casinos, and just setting moods in every episode. So how was lighting? Because I have found the last couple shows, it's getting harder and harder, just with everything having to be LED, everything having to be rebuilt, having our own fixture person. I mean, it's just getting so much more in detail, which is great, because then, we do have more input. If we're lighting the actors, essentially, we have more input, and that's a great thing too, to be in that, that conversation. But how was it for you with lighting, Cathy?
Well, I've learned over the past few jobs that it's much easier if myself and the director of photography, the DP, hit it off right away, and I say, I'm on your team, I'm on your side, let's talk. And I will usually show show him the lighting direction that I'm going in and see what he needs right off the bat. Whether he's, what type of lighting he likes to create and work with. So that kind of helps a lot. When you show up with the wrong lights and then they're scrambling at the last minute, it's not a good situation. So Jaron and I, who DP'd the episodes that I worked on, we talked from the get-go, and we did some camera tests on some of the lights just to make sure it was working, and we had a lot of opportunities to light the scenes. Like in the theater, one of the lights has to fall in the catwalk, but you also see these lights established on the wide shot when you're seeing the whole house and the stage off in the distance. So it has to work. It has to do double duty.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, thankfully we had 3 DPs. Steve Yedlin did the first 2, 1 and 9, and then Christine Eng and Jaron would alternate after that. But they were all very collaborative. They were very open, and we got lucky that they were available to some degree during prep to discuss lighting. But I think for like 1 and 9, we did some illustrations with a kind of mood and lighting for the casino and the lodge that kind of, gave Steve Yedlin a starting point for us to have a discussion. And I have found that, and you may agree, Cathy, I don't know, especially with streaming and TV schedules, that DPs rely much more heavily on set deck to provide lighting for the sets in a way that I don't really remember that to be the case several years ago.
It's huge now.
Yeah, it is huge. And we did have a whole rigging crew of electricians, and that was helpful. And I don't know, did we have like a fixtures person in set dressing? Or was it just something the electricians did? Because I know
I kind of created one.
Yeah,
right.
It is, at least in my experience, it's an electrician dedicated to set deck. Like he's just in constant, like talking to us about like, oh, you bought these, they don't work. Oh, you bought these work. Now you can buy the quantity, that type of thing. And then like bulbs going out or whatever. And he's just in constant contact with our crew. If I had known how much the lighting was going to be a subject every single fixture I bought, I would have had a buyer on just for lighting. But now I know that. And I think that's going to be a discussion up front from now on of what is our lighting. I mean, DP, whatever, because I'm going to have to put a specific person. I can't buy 7 lights and you tell me 7 aren't right. And now it shoots in 2 days and now I can't get 10 of them because you keep shooting them down. Like it's a game. It was a constant game on what I had gone through, and it all turned out, it all looked great. Like, but it was such a process to get there. It was unbelievable. So I don't know if you're in that mode yet, Cathy, but I am.
Oh yeah. I've learned over multiple jobs that it's an issue, and either I'll find, if I don't have the luxury of having somebody in my set deck team and the buyers, then I will do it, and I will work closely with whoever the house electrician is and make sure that we're testing stuff and that the DP sees the test. We did a lot of that for the outside, Judy, on the barbecue, all those lights on the outside and some of the distant lights and the big LEDs and the intensity of them. A lot of that got tested in advance and scrambled at the last minute sometimes. But I learned my lesson long ago to get involved in that very quickly, right off the bat.
Yeah, and I still feel like I would fall behind even if I got ahead of it.
Well, you never know. I mean,
never know.
It's
yeah. I think it's on your Instagram, Judy. You have some beautiful renderings of the casino and the crow's nest and of Sterling's office. Mm-hmm. And also looking at the casino, the big chandeliers that were there and everything. So, I mean, integrating lighting to a casino I was a casino dealer, so I'm always looking, like, when I see casinos of like, oh, that's too dark. We would never have it that dark. You have to see the cards. What are they doing in this casino here? But beautiful chandelier lighting in your office. And to me, the crow's nest is perfect because it's so sinister and it's so like, that's what they would have. It's like, and like kind of cheesy but nice. Like the whole casino to me was like the perfect vibe. So.
Well, thankfully those chandeliers existed, and so we designed everything around those chandeliers. And nice. I think the theater, which was the same space, is distracting enough that you don't clock that, or at least I hopefully people didn't. That it's the same space.
Not at all. No, that's great. I mean, to transform the space to two different things is always kind of like, wow, look at what we did.
Well, we did look for a theater. We searched high and low for an existing theater or some sort of auditorium. We even looked at high school gyms at one point. So deciding on that event space was a last-ditch effort. And that was part of the reason why we were cutting it so close, because it was a huge undertaking. And thankfully, you know, the pipe and drape helped tremendously to create some walls, barriers. I mean, there's no way we could have built that whole place out in time. So
yeah, and even as it was, the ceiling on the actual stage was too low to do the catwalk scene. So, you know, you had to design, and we had to build a separate catwalk area, backstage area, and also the basement for the trapdoor scenes where she falls through the trapdoor. So none of that would have fit in the actual space. And it kind of needed to be custom anyway. So I thought the team kind of blended those very, very nicely in the design of it.
Really great builds, and really, I mean, and so intricate, like you're saying, to the story. You almost have to build it because of how they've written it. That's always like, well, we can't find it because you wrote it this way. Can you write it this way? I bet they'll write anything we want right now. How many days were you shooting? Were they 9-day episodes, or did it matter? 10?
10. Yeah.
10. So you had about 10 days to prep the next episode then.
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the episode, I know Cathy started on 8 early on, having had the outline and knowing what we needed to create, even though they were finessing the script. So I think having the scripts up front was very helpful to sort of prioritize what the bigger challenges were going to be. So even though we shot every 10 days, I mean, a lot of times we were waiting for the space or scouting for the space. So that's the last minute scramble always,
right?
Not the stage builds.
About how many? It seems like you built almost everything though. I mean, you kind of built.
A lot of it was location builds, you know, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the like Arthur's animation studio was a barn, an empty barn, and that the challenge of that was bringing in things that made it feel like he had been there working for 40 years or 30 years doing his craft, and bringing in all the monsters and creatures that he may have been working on in various stages, and the molds and all the stuff that had to source from many, many different creatives and designers of these creatures.
Clearances on those.
Yeah, that was fun.
Wasn't that fun? Especially because it's NBC Peacock. I mean, they have a clearance department that's very intricate in the way we work and hindering. I've worked for Peacock, hindering. I've had to do I did a model thing, and it was like a joke. They rejected everything, so we had to go and just buy ND stuff and make it look like whatever. But yeah, that layer that you have there is so important because it is about making the character look like they've been there a while, and it's not all new, and it's, you know, giving him that life in there. Mm-hmm. What was that one of your favorite sets or one of your hated sets?
I think for me it was one of my favorite ones. Dealing with the creature people and all the creatives and trying to track down all of this stuff and going to some of their studios and warehouses and just pulling things that will work for the background and for creating his character and the story, but also the technology from 40 years ago, like his moviola, the flatbed moviola, and we had an upright moviola in the background just as a reference point. We had a lot of animation, the animation little stage, and the creatures that were designed by Phil Tippett, who is just an amazing, genius of Jurassic Park and Star Wars and all of those original creatures. I mean, he kind of single-handedly brought back stop motion animation to movies, to what we do today. And his work is evidence of that. So the creatures that he sent us finally, really kind of at the last minute, they arrived at the studio, and I know Natasha and a couple of people, everybody wanted to see what came, and they wanted to see this little set that he built for us, but nobody had seen it. Nobody knew, and it just arrived with no instructions, and they were going to come in like an hour. And I had to scramble my set dressing team to kind of assemble it and figure it out. And I had enough knowledge of stop motion animation, and me and one other guy kind of figured out how to put this thing together with the layers of elements that represented the animation stage for the stop motion creatures. And the fact that the creatures that arrived had metal articulations inside their skins, and a lot of people would not have known that you can bend them, and move them, because that's how they animate them in a stop motion sense. So that was fun to play with and figure out, because they were going to send, I think, a consultant to help set that up, and he wasn't going to come till the next day, but everybody wanted to see it up and running before that. So that was a challenge.
Yeah, sounds like it. One. Yeah. How did you know that? Have you done that? Have you done a set like that before that you found that out, or was it just research? And
a little bit of both. I mean, when I first started in the business, so dating myself, I did see stop motion animators at work. Mm-hmm. I had worked for a director who had a flatbed moviola. I know the difference between 16 millimeter width and 35 millimeter film.
Nice.
Which was important when I'm telling my buyers, okay, I need film cans to do the archive. We want to create this archive of film memorabilia, and trying to explain to them the difference between 35 and 16 millimeter. They think it's like the width of the can, 16 inches or something, 16 millimeters. And I said, no, it's the thickness of the film, 16 millimeter film versus 35 millimeter film. It's the width of the film. Oh. And so the height of the film can. So some of that kind of stuff I was able to pull from, my knowledge of starting out in the film business, when that was the medium that we worked with.
Isn't that? See, it all comes around.
It comes around.
Yeah. It's interesting because, Cathy and I are of an age where film was around and working on a Steenbeck was part of the process. But for a lot of younger generations who are watching the show, to see Arthur's barn, they may not know what all those things are, but then it becomes something that they are interested in, or, research on their own, like, what is that thing that he's working on? Or the fact that he's making clay models.
Yeah.
What is that? It's not
how do you thread it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's not all CGI, that people actually make things in 3-dimensional materials. And so that was interesting to realize later watching it, like, oh, right. We all know this.
Yeah, we all know
this, a lot of people don't. And, which makes it even more interesting for the viewer.
Oh, yeah. I think about that all the time, and I actually said it on the podcast yesterday about, I'm worried about if people are being influenced enough of what they see now to want to be in the film business. Do you know what I mean? Like for me, like E.T. or Goonies, or like all of the Indiana Jones, like all these movies I can think of. But if I think of what's coming out now, you know what I mean? I don't know. What's influent, like Marvel movies, and And then, like, in the 90s, the influence of such independent films and, like, people just picking up their The guy worked at the video. Kevin Smith and Tarantino, they worked at video stores, and now they're huge director. Like, is that gonna happen? I don't know. But there's so much good work. Like for Emmys, there's so much competition. There is so many good shows, and we're all doing film. We're all making films, You're making a film. Every episode is a film at this point. The work is so good now. I hope that it influences the way that I was influenced, and I get worried about it. I don't know. I get like
it's a valid worry. Like everything's being created, CGI. AI is now going to come in, and they're scanning all the props and set dressing at the prop houses so that they can just be dropped in digitally.
Yeah.
A lot of that is in our future. So
I mean, they can AI stop motion. They don't even have to, they could just make it a blurb in the description, and it'll do it, which is so scary. I know. I get scared about it.
It's sad.
I know, because I love this so much. I love what we do. I love hearing what we do, and I love doing it. I just want other people to do it too.
I think it'll always exist. It'll just become more rarefied and not the norm. It'll just be like the Christopher Nolans who are holding out to shoot film, and maybe one or two, but I think they'll still be around. I mean, we'll see how long that lasts, but there are people who are trying to keep the tradition going.
Yeah.
So, there's that.
I get scared. But then I'm like, oh, look at that new Wes Anderson movie. That'll inspire some people. There's some filmmaking, like, for mass audience. Like, I don't know.
But then there's still, there's the crafts that are involved, like building the yacht set for, was it 110? The interior of the yacht.
The interior of the yacht is fantastic. You built that?
It's fantastic. Yeah. Construction. I mean, it was such an amazing effort. First of all, the design that Judy and the art department did, but the construction department, putting that together, bending the wood, making all the spaces, and then creating this environment for the scenics to come along and paint and scenic, all that shiny, amazing wood that you would find in a real yacht.
I cannot believe you built that.
Take their pieces and upholster them and do all the upholstery in the ceiling with the little, the gathers and all the strips, and sourcing the windows and the nautical fixtures and the door handles and latches. I mean, that was such an effort of craft, I think, on the art department, construction, scenic, set deck, design. I thought that was just kind of a really unique example of everybody excelling in making that set happen.
That is a beautiful set. I cannot believe you built that. Bravo to your carpenters and upholsterers and everything, because I just thought you got a boat. I mean, he's on a boat. We see him on the boat. I mean,
he cheated the interior of the actual boat, but I feel like the whole series, we really got lucky with the crew that we had. I mean, all the planets did align, and I've said that a few times, where every department brought it, and we all worked really well together, and were very coordinated in the limited time that we had. I mean, otherwise it would not have gotten done. And I think that it was a blur, but it's a miracle. The results
childbirth
came out so well. Yeah.
It is. It's always like childbirth. Like, it's so awful when you're in it, and then a couple months later you're like, yeah, I'd go back for season 2, I guess. I mean, it looks good, so why not,
Well, it's like childbirth. I have an analogy about that. You birth this project. You build it, you create it, you nurture it, and you're like halfway through it, you're like, get me the heck off this job. And then it's finished, and you forget the pain.
Oh yeah.
And then you get screwed again, and all of a sudden it's a new project.
Yeah. All of a sudden your lead man's like, it wasn't that bad. We could do it. Now we know now we know it's not bad. Now we know what it is. We might as well go back. And I'm like, I thought we were never coming back here. I never wanted to see this office again.
Get me out of here.
Our lead man was incredible. I mean, I've done the alternating decorator thing before, and what usually happens is each decorator has their own lead man instead of set dresser, so that you leapfrog separately.
Yeah.
But we had one lead man, and I was a little concerned because I thought he was going to be stretched. The set dressers were going to be stretched. Somehow he kept it all together, and of course, trucking was always a challenge, as it is on every job. And the sets always got done. It was never like we showed up and it was not dressed. I mean,
who was the lead?
Dan Melchiori.
Oh, bravo.
Melchiori.
Yeah.
Wonderful. He was really great. I agree with Judy totally. We had a good team. A lot of A-team set dressers live up in the Hudson Valley. They like the idea of not going into the city to the studios. So we got great people on every level.
So how was that though? Like, what was the commute from where your base was to, like, say, your main prop house that you hit? Was it long? Was that a day? Like, was that a rounder? Like, how?
It was, I think, well, that part of the Hudson Valley is probably an hour and a half north of New York City. So it's dealing with the commute. You know, sometimes it's 4 hours trucking round trip or more, but we kind of build that into our pickups and planning. And we also were lucky to find a couple of suppliers up in the Hudson Valley or in Connecticut where the commute was a little easier for the trucks. But we pulled from so many sources, had so many things shipped in and brought in from the West Coast, and, you know,
there's no forgetting that lamp. There's no forgetting that one lamp shade and going back for it. So.
and one of my challenges was when you're dealing with all these creatures and the artists, the prosthetics artists that make them, you may not, the show may not have an account with these vendors like you would a normal prop house. So we can't like go in and set up an account and say, okay, I'm picking all this stuff up tomorrow and go get it and bring it. Some of these people needed checks right away. They would not release their creative, babies without money up front. And so trying to make that happen quickly in time so that you could actually pick up what you want to rent and get it to you on the schedule that you need it was a challenge. You know, it was a lot of burden on accounting to react that quickly and on everybody to get the orders processed, to get the trust built up with the vendor that you're dealing with and say, okay, we're going to come and take all your creatures that are worth a fortune. And we'll return them and they'll be fine. But, you can't pay them like 2 weeks later. They'll do no. That was a challenge.
Were you like shooting out there and the production office was in the city, or like were you all together out there?
We were all together. We had to be.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. That's kind of nice, I think. Then you're like you're on your own island and you can all gather together.
But the buyers would go into the city. They'd have to go to the prop houses. We were spread out and took a lot of coordination for both teams to get all the stuff there that was needed in time.
I used to have, I'm from Philly. I used to have this like dream of like, oh, I'll go back someday and then maybe I'll work in New York or Philly. And like, then it sort of hit me like, duh, you already got into this union. Like, you're not going to get in that one or it's too hard. And then I was like, I am petrified to work in New York City. Like, I don't know how you do it. I mean, I know like once you get your system and you know how long stuff takes and everything, it's fine. But the thought of all that to me of like New York City, trying to get a truck, trying to get dressing, we forgot a lampshade, forget it.
It was a challenge, believe me.
Keep up on that a long time ago.
Pulling my hair out.
Well. Judy, are you from the East Coast, West Coast?
No, I grew up in LA. I went the opposite way and I came to New York.
So then
I ended up staying. Yeah, it suits me. I miss California. It's beautiful landscape. And a lot of my New York friends have moved to LA now. So when I go there, I visit them. But yeah, I've been here for many years. Yeah. I'm not going to say how long, but yes.
I know. I flinch at how long I've been in LA. So I don't even know. We finally got rid of the June gloom, if you know that, like it's been so gloomy and awful. And then yesterday and today is nice. So that's a plus because we're off and it's been totally like gloomy every day. Are you getting anything? Are you getting any projects done while you're off, or are you off? Are you hitting commercials? Are you writing your own movie?
Doing projects, personal projects.
Yeah.
Trying to stay busy and not think about, the strikes. Hopefully it's only a singular strike.
Yeah.
We're all wondering when that's going to end. And just there's always projects that you've been putting off.
Yeah.
Now I don't have the excuse of I don't have time. I have nothing but time.
I know. I was just saying, one of my buyers from my last show called me today, and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" Blah blah blah. And I was like, "You know what? We're gonna go back to work, and I'm gonna be pissed that I didn't learn Italian, or like I didn't lose 10 pounds. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing the podcast, but I don't know what I'm doing every day. But I'm busy. But it'll just be a chunk of my life that I had off and I didn't get anything done because I can't spend any money because I don't know how long this is going to last. So I'm kind of in like a limbo. What are you doing, Cathy?
Well, I'm catching up on projects. There's always a list. I will never, ever be bored.
Yeah.
I just went to Portugal for 3 weeks and had a fabulous time. So
oh my God, that's awesome.
That was, travel is a good anecdote.
Lisbon?
Did you lack of work? Lisbon, all of Portugal. We circumnavigated everything and ended up in the Azores.
Oh,
so
wow.
It was fab, just totally fab.
Oh.
And I'm glad we did it before the crush because now there are lots of tourists there and it's crazy.
The summer.
But,
oh my God, that's
great. Yesterday I was doing yard work and pruning, my hedges.
Yeah, life. It's like COVID all over again. Life.
Yep. I love it. I love time off.
Now, when they get the call for season 2, you gotta like get back into it. It's always like, oh, I'm ready, but I'm not. I don't want to go back to it, but I'm ready. Let's go. I have no idea if this is picked up for season 2, but I don't really like Natasha Lyonne. I don't really like her as an actor. But I liked this because she wasn't in every scene. You know what I mean? Like, it was a good story all around. And then, like, every episode had, like, what's her name? Chloe Sevigny. And then, like, Adrian Brody. Like, you had so many good actors in these little plots all around that Judith Light. I mean, there
were amazing guest stars in that sort of 70s model of Columbo.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, we didn't even know until the last minute, a lot of the times, who the guest stars were going to be. Like
fun.
Adrian Brody came in at the very last minute.
Sean Lennon.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Lennon has a little quick moment.
He has like a little cameo outside of the Lamb exhibit space, the big glass pyramid of the IBM IMPay building.
I love that. I love IMPay.
Wow.
Did you have like an absolute favorite set that you wish was still standing?
Cathy?
Well, I seriously gave some thought to and asked the producers about maybe keeping the yacht interior. I have a cottage on my property that I've Airbnb'd, and I have kind of a biggish basement, but I thought, God, that just to put that set inside the basement would be like a really cool Airbnb where people could go and stay on a yacht. But, I live on a lake, so they go out the door and be at the lakefront. But just to spend the time in that set would have been really cool. And then, my Virgo practicality woke up and went, I'd have to hire. They'd have to disassemble it. I'd have to hire the construction to come and rebuild it and actually make the cabinets work for storage or the bathroom.
Right.
It's more of a project, but I was so tempted because it was such a wonderful, unique set, and everybody went in there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I can't believe you built that.
Trash that.
Oh, it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Judy?
Well, the barbecue set, the location kept a lot of it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, really that's nice.
Improved their restaurant bar and their kitchen. We completely revamped their kitchen, the whole, the gravel, all of it. I think the road they had to close. I mean, obviously they didn't keep the radio station, but they kept a lot of it. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's always a compliment. I always find like when you go to people's houses and they're like, can we keep these curtains or these shears? And you're like, sure. We made an improvement.
We improved, like you say, we improved their property. I mean, there was a whole area outside of the what had been the garage bay, repair bay, and the brewery part of the space where you stepped outside, and they had like it was going to be a slab where they were going to had plans in the future to put a cement slab out there, but it was dangerous coming out that kitchen door to the area that we wanted to be house the smokers. And so we got approval and ended up pouring a cement slab that was beautiful for them, and so they got very excited over that.
Oh wow!
And then they wanted to keep the shed that the smokers were in, and there was some debate about whether it was structural enough long term, but they would have had to put footings and stuff, and they decided to do it, I guess, and got approval to do it.
Oh, that's great.
But there were a lot of improvements made.
Yeah, on top of their location fee.
Yeah,
they made out pretty well.
Yeah.
Well,
we did a bluestone slab, another one in another area of that space too. So
they lucked out.
Yeah.
It was like a home renovation show.
Completely.
Yeah.
Are you watching anything that's inspiring, or that you are just like blown away about, or the sets, or wish you worked on it?
Watching Wednesday. I know I'm a little behind, and that's a fun show.
Yeah, that's really good.
I mean, I'm falling back on my techie thing. I started watching Star Trek, and I think I watched the last episode last night of
oh my God, that's great.
Other Worlds or whatever. But there's such great stuff out there. I mean, some of the shows are phenomenal. I still have to catch up on Succession. I haven't seen the last season of that. I love, Mrs. Maisel. All the sets Ellen did an amazing job on those sets. So I have so many favorites to catch up on and continue.
I get so sad when things end, because I'm like, oh, like Maisel's done. You're like, oh, what happened to those sets? Like, what all that wardrobe? Like, oh my gosh, I hope other shows grab it or manipulate it or goes into prop houses. Just a plethora of period pieces from that show. I can't imagine. I don't know what they...
Chinka was another show I saw recently that I was really engrossed in, and I binged watched that in one day. And I was and I was really bummed. Oh, we're gonna have to wait another year for season 2, but it's really well done, and I feel like they got all the period stuff correct.
Oh, nice! And that won the ADG award, I think.
Did it?
I think that won this year. Yeah, I just binged the Bear in one day, basically one day.
Oh.
It was
That's
good.
A fun show.
Yeah, and then I didn't realize season 2 comes out this week. So I was like, oh, I planned that pretty well. I don't have to wait for the season 2. But yeah, it is. You guys, that's phenomenal work on this show. Bravo. I mean, I knew it when I was watching it of they had nothing to fall back on here. This is run and gun the whole show. This must be exhausting. So bravo for pulling it off, because I really thought you drove cross country and shot in different cities. So bravo.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
I thought we had great teams. I thought Lizzie's team did an excellent job. I think all the episodes kind of worked together.
Oh, yeah.
Very well.
Seamlessly.
And the consistent design that Judy provided.
Yeah, we had a really good team all the way around. Just
art department,
designers, scenics, construction, and the 2 decorators and the set dressers. I mean, it worked out so well. I feel very fortunate, because any one of those things did not kind of work in the sort of world in which we had to run and gun. I think it would have been that much more difficult, because we were already challenged for time.
Yeah.
There was no going back to fix or redo. There was none of that. So it really is a miracle.
Well, bravo. I know I feel your pain, and I'm blown away by your end product. So bravo. Really, job well done. And so nice to meet both of you. It's fantastic. And
you as well. I'm a fan of your work.
Fan of your work, guys. I mean, Judy, come on over to LA and hire me. it was so nice to connect with these two women and to hear about the process of this show. And their decor and design of it was fantastic for, it sounds like, a very hectic schedule. And being on the run, just like the character of the show, which I think is kind of funny. It's funny, haha, for me, because I didn't have to do it. But yeah, that's bravo to them, because I know how hard it is. I'm a fan of these women. Judy has done Let the Right One In, Better Call Saul, Jessica Jones, which was a huge show. And Cathy, I had almost connected with in 2020, February 2020. I was emailing with her about Hunter's first season to try on the podcast. And then that little pandemic happened, and we kind of lost touch, but big fan of hers. I love The Americans. She did the third season of Jack Ryan, and a bit of the fourth. So I also would love to talk to her about those projects too. But yeah, so I thank them so much for their time, and being able to talk with them was fantastic. So I hope you enjoyed that. But hey guys, I think that's it. I mean, almost every episode this year you can listen to an Emmy contender. Been so lucky. I thank everyone so much. And good luck to everyone. And don't forget to vote if you're an Emmy voter. I hope that I've opened up to some fans of these shows how much work goes into making them and the creativity that it takes to get it done. And it's not easy, and we don't show up to dressed and design sets. Like they said, they had to build that whole theater. They had to build that whole kitchen. Like, sometimes you go to a kitchen and you shoot it and it's great and you add this and that, and sometimes you gotta build the kitchen. The yacht. If you look at episode 10 of this show and you see this yacht, it's crazy to me that they built that. Like, they couldn't, I mean, I get it, finding the interior of a boat that's big enough to shoot in, but people do it. But yeah, the inside of that yacht, I would have tried to take it at least a couple pieces. It was fantastic. So yeah, again, bravo to their work, bravo to everyone else's work. Try to catch up on some episodes. I'm gonna take next week off, people, and then it's 4th of July weekend. I'll give you a little something on the 4th. How about that? For your ride home from your 3 to 4 day weekend. How about that? In fact, I can even tell you who that is because I've already talked with them. It is Tracy Collins, who, this is so much fun. Tracy Collins is production designer of Power Rangers Once and Again, and I had an absolute blast researching this. My boys loved it, and God, it was just fun to connect with her about the project, because you never know what goes into all of these movies and shows. And so yeah, and then after that I have Cabot McMullen and Brandon Martinez talking about the Disney Plus movie Flamin' Hot. So yeah, and after that we'll see. Then it's Emmy time. Then it's Emmy announcements, and oy vey, here we go again. So I hope you got an earful. I'm Kim Wanup for Decorating Pages.